Right now, inside your walls, under your floors, and behind your kitchen cabinets, there are thousands of insects moving through your home in complete silence. Ants, cockroaches, moving through every surface your food touches, every counter your children touch, every floor your family walks on barefoot every single day. Pest control companies charge $200 for a single visit and $800 for an annual contract to spray chemicals so toxic they make you leave your own home for hours. And they come back every 3 months because the insects always return. Nobody ever told you that a $1 powder sitting in every grocery store kills every ant and cockroach in your home permanently and costs the pest control industry $6 billion every single year in business they should never have had. This is the knowledge they buried inside the fine print. Welcome to Chemist Survival. This is where vaults get opened. If these stories matter to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon. This is where we open the vaults the industry locked shut forever. In 1948, a research entomologist named Dr. Walter Ebling was working at the University of California studying household insect control methods. The industry continued selling them anyway because there was no cheaper alternative that worked as effectively. Ebling began testing a naturally occurring mineral compound called diatomaceous earth, a soft white powder formed from the fossilized remains of tiny aquatic organisms called diatoms that had accumulated in ancient lake beds over millions of years. The powder had been used in limited agricultural settings, but nobody had systematically tested it against household insects. What Ebling discovered in his laboratory changed everything. Diatomaceous earth did not kill insects through chemical toxicity the way commercial sprays did. It killed them through a completely different and far more effective physical mechanism, one that insects could never develop resistance to, one that worked permanently as long as the powder remained in place, one that cost less than $1 per application. He published his findings in 1961. The pest control industry read his report carefully, and then the pest control industry continued charging $200 per visit for chemical sprays for the next 60 years, as if Ebling's discovery had never happened. Here's exactly what diatomaceous earth does to insects and why it works permanently. Every insect has a protective outer shell called an exoskeleton. This exoskeleton is coated in a thin waxy layer that serves one critical function. It prevents the insect from losing moisture. Without that waxy coating, an insect cannot retain the water its body needs to function. It dehydrates. It dies. This is why insects can survive in dry environments that would kill other creatures. Their waxy exoskeleton coating is their entire survival system. Diatomaceous earth destroys that coating completely. Under a microscope, diatomaceous earth particles look nothing like ordinary powder. Each particle is a fossilized microscopic shell covered in sharp angular edges. When an insect walks through diatomaceous earth, those microscopic sharp edges physically scratch and cut through the waxy coating on the exoskeleton surface. The cuts are invisible to the naked eye. The insect feels nothing and continues moving normally, but the waxy protective layer has been compromised. Moisture begins escaping through every microscopic cut. The insect begins dehydrating from the inside out. Within 24 to 48 hours, the insect dies from complete dehydration regardless of its species size or chemical resistance. This mechanism is why diatomaceous earth works on every insect permanently. Chemical sprays lose effectiveness when insects develop genetic resistance over generations. Insects cannot develop resistance to physical dehydration. You cannot evolve immunity to losing water through a scratched exoskeleton. The mechanism that kills the first ant in 1961 kills the last cockroach in your kitchen in 2026 with identical effectiveness. A study published by the Journal of Economic Entomology confirmed that food-grade diatomaceous earth achieves 100% mortality in common household cockroach populations within 72 hours of contact exposure, 100%, with a powder that costs $1 per application at any grocery or hardware store. Now for the numbers that put everything into perspective. The global pest control industry generates over $22 billion every single year. In the United States alone, pest control services collect over $6 billion annually from residential customers. The average American household spending on pest control sits between $150 and $300 per visit, with most pest control contracts requiring 4 visits per year. That is between $600 and $1,200 every single year per household. for a problem that a $1 bag of powder solves permanently. Diatomaceous earth costs between $8 and $12 for a 2-kilogram bag that treats an entire house completely and lasts for months. A single application along baseboards, under appliances, inside cabinet edges, and around entry points creates a permanent barrier that kills every insect that crosses it indefinitely. The pest control industry cannot patent diatomaceous earth. They cannot charge $200 per visit for a powder that costs $1. Their entire business model depends on selling you a temporary chemical solution that requires repeat visits rather than a permanent physical solution that requires a single $1 application. That is not a coincidence. That is a business model built entirely on information you were never supposed to find. Here's exactly what you need to eliminate every ant and cockroach from your home permanently starting today. Purchase food-grade diatomaceous earth. This is critically important. There are 2 types of diatomaceous earth available: food-grade and pool-grade. Pool-grade diatomaceous earth has been heat-treated and chemically altered for swimming pool filtration. It is not safe for indoor home use. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is the natural unaltered powder and is completely safe around humans, children, and pets when used correctly. It is available at any hardware store, garden center, or online supplier for under $10 per bag. Before applying, identify every location where you have seen insect activity. Ant trails along baseboards, cockroach activity under the refrigerator, under the stove, inside cabinet corners, under the sink. These activity zones are your primary application points. Using a small brush, a squeeze bottle, or a dedicated powder duster, apply a thin layer of diatomaceous earth along every baseboard in your kitchen and bathroom. Thin is the critical word here. A thick, visible layer is less effective than a thin, barely visible dusting. Insects avoid thick, visible powder deposits. A thin layer that blends into the surface is walked through without detection. Apply along the full length of every cabinet base inside your kitchen. Apply behind and underneath your refrigerator and stove where cockroaches concentrate most heavily. Apply inside the corner edges of every cabinet shelf. Apply around every pipe entry point under your sink where insects enter from outside walls. For ant problems, apply a thin line along every exterior door threshold, every windowsill edge, and every crack or gap where the wall meets the floor. Ants follow scent trails into your home through specific entry points. A diatomaceous earth barrier at every entry point means every ant to enter contacts the powder and dies within 48 hours. Do not disturb the application areas after applying. Do not mop or vacuum the treated zones. The powder must remain undisturbed to maintain its barrier effect. In dry indoor conditions, a single application remains fully effective for months. If the treated areas get wet from mopping or spills, reapply immediately after the surface dries completely. Within 72 hours of your first application, you will see a dramatic reduction in insect activity. Within 7 days, insect activity in treated areas will stop completely. Within 30 days, the colony feeding from your home will have collapsed entirely as affected insects carry powder particles back to the nest on their bodies, exposing the entire colony to the same dehydration mechanism. I need to be honest with you about one important limitation. Diatomaceous earth works through physical contact and dehydration. It is not effective in wet or humid conditions. If the powder gets wet, it clumps together and loses its cutting ability completely until it dries out again.